Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Tonight I will talk about To You by Sawaki Roshi. But before I start to talk, let's sit together for 30 minutes. Thank you for joining. Let me read some quotes from Sawaki Roshi's to you and comment on them. Today we're on page 61 in the printed version. The next quote runs like this. The phenomenal world isn't something that some god made. It arises through interdependent causation. Buddha is an immeasurable cause resulting in an immeasurable effect. Thinking from the basis of non-thinking. This is how Buddha is actualized. It is often said that Zen means non-mind. Non-mind refers to that which is immeasurable. And this immeasurable is more than just the opposite of measurable. So this quote consists of three, how do you say? I forgot the English word. Three sections, paragraphs. Paragraphs is the word I'm looking for. Three paragraphs. The first one, the phenomenal world, everything that we see and hear, this world that we perceive. It's not created by God, as the Christians say, but Buddhists say it arises through interdependent causation. I'm not so familiar with Indian cosmology, but it seems to be pretty close to the worldview of physics, that in the beginning it started with something like Big Bang and the universe expands, but eventually it will become smaller again. There's going to be a big crunch. And physicists usually don't say anything about what happened before the Big Bang. Well, some say there is no before because time and space started with the Big Bang. So it's stupid. It's nonsense to ask the question. But I think there's other theories as well, but we're not quite sure what happened with before the Big Bang. And I think the old Indians thought that before this universe, there was another and another. So history didn't start with this universe, but it goes on until eternity. Be that as it may, there's quite some similarities between the Buddhist cosmology and the physicists' cosmology in that everything has a cause. And everything that's happened right now is happening right now is a cause for the next effects. So reality we're witnessing right now is the effect what happened in the past. And what is happening now is the cause for what is going to happen in the future. And a physicist might think that if we knew exactly where matter is right now at this moment, and we also know how the particles are moving, of course that's impossible, but if it was possible to completely measure how the particles in the universe are distributed at this precise moment, and we also knew how they are moving, then in theory, if we had a supercomputer, we would know the whole past and also the whole future, because we could calculate backwards what happened, what caused the reality that we are living in, and we could calculate into the future because we know the cause of what's going to happen tomorrow and in 2000 years and in 2 million years, whatever. And at least Sawaki Roshi seems to disagree with this, because in the second paragraph he says, Buddha is an immeasurable cause. We can't measure this. Although everything arises out of interdependent causation, everything has a cause and everything creates an effect. The cause is not measurable. We can't grasp it. We can't calculate it. We can't feed it into a computer, and the computer will tell us the whole future of the universe. Buddha is an immeasurable cause resulting in an immeasurable effect. We can't measure the past, we can't measure the present, we can't measure the future. Thinking from the basis of non-thinking, this is how Buddha is actualized. Non-thinking in Japanese is called hishiryo. Sometimes people translate it also as beyond thinking. Dogen Zenji uses the phrase in the Fukan Zengi, his instructions for Zazen. He says, after you adjust the posture, take a deep breath, sit stably like a mountain, unmovable like a mountain, and think on the ground of non-thinking. How do you do that? It's beyond thinking, it's hishiryo. But Dogen Zenji doesn't explain how that works. If he did explain it, that would make it much easier for us to practice it. But if he did explain it and we would do it just the way he explained it, it wouldn't be non-thinking anymore. It would be graspable, it would be measurable. The point of non-thinking is you can't explain it, you can just, well, be it. The moment you stop grasping, the moment you open the hands of thought, as Uchiyama Roshi said, the moment you open the hand of thought, that's non-thinking, which doesn't mean that the thoughts disappear. There are thoughts, like the famous clouds in the sky, but you don't grasp them and you don't float with them. You allow the clouds to appear, to float, and to disappear. That's the state of non-thinking. It doesn't mean that no thoughts happen. It's just that you don't try to suppress the thoughts, you don't try to avoid the thoughts, you don't follow the thoughts. You are not controlled by the thoughts and you don't try to control the thoughts. This is how Buddha is actualized. And then the last paragraph. It's often said that Zen means non-mind. Probably the original here is mushin, which could also be translated as no mind. Zen means non-mind or no mind. Non-mind refers to that which is immeasurable. And this immeasurable, in quotation marks, is more than just the opposite of measurable. Why is it not just the opposite of measurables? There's things that we can measure, and Buddhism talks about that which you cannot measure. I think the point here is if you said immeasurable is that which is opposite of measurable, you already put it into a frame. But immeasurable contains also the measurable. It's not everything that's outside the measurable. It's everything, even containing the measurable, but it's not restricted to the measurable. About non-mind or no mind, you know that my name is Muho, and maybe you also know that Mu also means no or nothing, and Ho means direction. So literally, my name means no direction, but in Buddhism it means open in all directions, 360 degrees, open in all directions. So ungraspable, like the sky, open in all directions. And no mind also is a mind that's open. It's completely open mind. It's like the sky. It doesn't mean it's empty or void. It doesn't mean that there is no mind to begin with. Of course, there's a mind. And just like the sky is sometimes cloudy, sometimes there's a thunderstorm, it's not always empty, but it doesn't cling to the clouds. Okay, so much for the first quote. Maybe before we start with the questions, I'll do another one. The second quote is a little shorter. Apart from Zazen, All of your, in quotation marks, good deeds come out of your ego consciousness because you're always thinking, I do good. Only when you stop thinking, I do Zazen, are you doing true Zazen. And I think that's why Dogen Zenji also in the Fukanza Zengi says, and there he's quoting the sixth ancestor, Hui Neng, don't think good, don't think bad. So Zazen doesn't mean that we try to have good thoughts or improve our thoughts. Don't think good, don't think bad. Um, I find it a little bit surprising that Sawaki Roshi here says, apart from Zazen, all of your good deeds come out of ego consciousness. Because it seems to imply that Zazen is also a good deed. And I find that surprising because Sawaki Roshi usually insists that Zazen is good for nothing. So why would he say it's something good? Well, you could say, well, it is exactly good the moment you realize it's good for nothing. It's the best thing in the world. But I wouldn't kind of put it into the same good category that all of our other good deeds belong into. So why are good deeds not necessarily good? Well, Sawaki Roshi says because it's connected to ego consciousness, the idea I do good. So basically, it's also part of the game that I always talk about. You might do good things to impress others. You might do good things because you know that others will be nice to you in return. Or you might believe that a god or maybe the Buddha watches you, and when you do something good, that improves your karma, and thus you will get points in the game by doing good. Um, So when we do good, of course, there's nothing wrong with doing good. But the point is, very rarely we do something good naturally, just like that. To use the Chinese expression out of Wu Wei, it just happens. It's usually connected to this idea I should do good, I will do good. And then we try to compare and say, well, he is not as good as I am, but I am not as good as she is. I need to work harder on my ethics, whatever. And that's why Sawaki Roshi also says in the case of Zazen, you shouldn't do it with the idea, I practice Zazen. I've been doing this for 3 years, for 5 years. I've already gained certain experiences. It's about letting go of this idea and allow Zazen to practice Zazen. Don't interfere with Zazen. Don't get into the way of Zazen. And you could say the same about doing good. There's nothing wrong with doing good, but don't get into the way with your ego and with this. I'm practicing, for example, right speech. I'm doing right action. I follow right livelihood. I follow the precepts that were taught by the Lord Buddha. Thus, you get into the way of the precepts. You go into the way of right livelihood. Don't get into the way. Allow it to happen. Allow good to happen. And usually the best way is not to think about good or bad in the first place. Okay, that was the second quote. If you have questions, things you would like to share, you're welcome to do so. Any questions? Anything you would like to share?
Yes. Um, I I often I feel like in Zazen, I'm constantly trying to interfere
Hmm.
with anything that's happening, like thoughts or little corrections to the posture, or it's as if any impression gets translated into a kind of image, and then I start playing with that image mentally and evolve it into something new, and then, I'm kind of gone in that story.
Hmm.
So I try to sometimes I try to um not intervene, but that is also a kind of intervention, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I I'm not sure how to deal with that, whether intervention with what's happening is always the seed of a new distraction, or if intervention is sometimes necessary to kind of come back out of your distraction.
Mm. I think I know the dilemma you're talking about, and sometimes I use the metaphor of a kind of say hotel detective that's always watching the monitors. Is there something happening in my mind? And usually there's something happening, and you interfere. You catch the thief and throw him out of the hotel or out of the department store, whatever. And then you look on the monitors again and you see another thing. There's something happening. Something is happening in my mind. I'm thinking again, whatever. And but after a while, you realize actually a bigger problem than these thieves that I continue to catch is the hotel detective that's always busy with looking on the monitors. So maybe I should stop interfering. Maybe I should stop always scanning my mind and looking for thoughts, because as long as you do that, you will always find some thoughts. So when you realize that you're doing that, the easiest thing is to just, well, how do you say, point your consciousness, or how do you say, your consciousness is directed at your physical posture without judging. Maybe I should move my thumbs a little bit higher or lower. Just see what's happening with your body in that moment, or follow the breath. And you can also connect them and try to be aware of the whole body with this breath at the center. But if you want, you can also focus on the breath alone. And of course, this won't stop the thoughts from coming up and your tendency to interfere with them. But if you realize that that happens, don't feel bad about it. But the moment you realize, you return to the posture, return to the breath without trying to control that as well. Those of us who are really control freaks, the moment we become aware of our breath, we ask ourselves, maybe I should make a little bit deeper. Maybe I should breathe out a little bit longer. And if that happens, well, try to let it go by, well, just following the breath without controlling it. Just
Would
be
you
aware
say
of
that
the,
is,
pardon?
would you say that this is what Kodo Sawaki meant with the state of non-thinking, that it's a state of non-intervention ultimately?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And when Sawaki Roshi says non-thinking, of course, it's already beyond this focusing on the posture, focusing on the breath. It's kind of, you totally open up. But it's usually in the beginning, it's very difficult to just open up completely and sort of give yourself to whatever's happening at the moment. So if you feel that there's lots of things happening in your mind, and this tendency of yourself to intervene disturbs your practice, I would recommend that you mm, focus on the body, on the breath. But concerning the question, does non-thinking also mean no intervention? I would say yes. in the end, it means no intervention. But of course, for Sawaki Roshi, the posture was very important. So it doesn't mean that you don't care about how you sit, for example. But it doesn't mean that you check all the time. When we sit for 30 minutes, that 30 minutes you always check, are my thumbs still straight? Is my back still straight? Maybe I should stretch it for another millimeter or so. That's not non-thinking. So you adjust your posture and then you just succumb to the posture, so to speak. Any other questions? Anything
Yes, I have a
else?
question. Do you hear me?
Yes, Herr W., yes, please.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question about the posture because when I see you, you have a very, very beautiful, full lotus uh, posture. And me, I'm getting old and I'm not able to make a full lotus, even a half lotus. And I'm exercised on a chair. So uh, there's how you say, uh, an effect on the the of zazen to be sitting on the chair, to be in half lotus or in full lotus.
You mean, does it make a difference?
No, no, it's a question. If there's a difference on the effect of a meditation to be in this three different posture. The fact that I can't be in a full lotus, does it mean that I will never get a good state of mind because I'm not in the right posture? It's a question.
Hmm. I'm not quite sure if I understand the question right, but if the question is, does it make a difference? Then the answer is yes, it makes a difference. Next question. So what exactly is the difference? And the answer to that is, well, you realize if you try out how full lotus feels for you, how half lotus feels for you, how sitting on a chair feels for you. You can realize it for yourself, and it depends on the person. It's not the same different for each person. And maybe then the final question is, well, does this mean that we must sit in full lotus? That Zazen isn't really Zazen if we don't sit at least half lotus or ideally in full lotus? And the answer to that question is no. Nobody says, at least I don't know anybody who says you must sit in full lotus. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. But if you can't do it, if it's impossible for you to sit 30 minutes in this posture, but you can sit in half lotus and it feels much better in half lotus, you can sit in half lotus. And if sitting on a chair feels best for you, it gives you the best stability. And maybe you would like to sit in the lotus posture, but you cannot do it for 30 minutes. Then sitting in a chair is also completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if the question again is it the same? It's not the same. It's a difference. It's a difference. But if you cannot sit in half lotus, don't sit in half lotus. Or if you can sit in half lotus but not in full lotus, then avoid full lotus. Don't do it with force. And with some people over the years it gets better, but then when you get older, sometimes it gets worse as well. So there's nothing wrong with sitting in a chair if that's what you can do.
Thank you.
May I quickly share my experience on this topic?
Yes, please.
So I've been trying to reach the full lotus for many years and haven't succeeded much, although I can make myself into that posture. I certainly see the difference, and the difference is interesting because I face mutually exclusive sensations. On one hand, I can certainly say that my mind gets kind of more stable in the full lotus, although the painful sensations are also much more intense. So uh, I can sit in half lotus for much longer, but it takes more of an effort to keep my mind focused in this position. But I choose to sit longer rather than just a couple of minutes, but in a very good content and focused way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Joseph was asking for the page. I thought I said it in the beginning. So today's quote was on page 61. And Drachenlachen writes a long comment about, well, Wu Wei, things happen by themselves, but it's not that you sit on the sofa and you wait until Zazen does Zazen, or the dishes wash the dishes by themselves. It takes some practice. You have to develop the habit of practicing Zazen, doing the dishes, or not being a jerk like Brad Warner. He translates a chapter of the Shobogenzo. The title literally is not doing any evil, and he translates it as not being a jerk. So you don't always have to be a good person, but it's worth avoiding being a jerk. And if that becomes your second nature, as you would say in English, if not being a jerk is your second nature, then it happens by itself. Or if Zazen becomes your second nature, if washing the dishes after you had your meal is your second nature, then that's when Wu Wei happens. So it's not that right from the start you just sit back and wait that the Buddha basically is doing all the work for you. That, of course, is totally correct. Okay, anything else you would like to ask or share?
I had a question about the full lotus position. Before the first one, I was already wanting to ask you a simple question. Basically, like my experience is similar that, but because my back is kind of messed up, I never intended to try to really sit in full lotus for a long time, although now I can get into full lotus without a big problem, but it's not comfortable. But that basically my back is pretty bad. So the pain in my knees, and now it's like it's easier just to have the pain in my knees, and then my back feels really good. So the question is simple though, is that I find when I sit in full lotus, I don't need to raise my hips as high.
Yes.
So I just I've been wanting to ask you, are you able to get stable in full lotus and do zazen with no zafu, or do you still feel the zafu is really helpful? That's the question.
My experience, and I could imagine that's everybody's experience, that with full lotus you need less height as if half lotus. So in my case right now, this cushion is pretty flat. So when I sit in full lotus, I'd say maybe an inch or so. But if I would say in half lotus, I would maybe fold it over or kind of move this stuff. There's kind of soba shells in here, so you can move it together and gives you more height. Can I do it without a cushion? Well, I can. Like at the end of yoga practice, sometimes you sit like this. 5 minutes would work, but doing this for 50 minutes Antaiji style, probably my back would get tired. But it's not impossible. But using this here makes it much easier, kind of takes the strain from the hips. Also, it's easier to keep the knees on the floor. But in theory, without the cushion it would work, but to have this extra inch here helps a lot, I would say. And in half lotus, I would certainly prefer having the cushion to, how do you say, protect the foot that's below. So if I sit on a, how do you say, low cushion like this, then the foot that's below would kind of get all the pressure. So in this case, I would certainly want to have a higher cushion. Who's raising his hand? Andre is raising his hand. Andre, please.
Yeah, I feel I want to share something about this lotus stuff, because like when I started with this Zazen, before I learned that the position is something like the what is called like very important in Soto Zen. I had so much pain, and I told the Zen teacher, oh, it's when he said, how you feel like when you sit with us. I said, everything is fine if there wasn't this pain. And he said like, oh, but when I look at you, you sit right. I don't know where it comes from. So now after, I don't know, many years, I have the same problem, the same pain. I try to come in the half lotus. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes not. So I feel really like somewhere I read it. It's like the koan in Soto, the position. It's very important. And what me really helped was something I read somewhere, like go to a yoga teacher and ask you how to get. And there I learned it's something with the hips. Especially Europeans have their hips too not wide. I think in Hatha yoga they call it hip opener. This is something you can really do. And in my experience, this really helped me. Like almost every day I try to do hip opener when I do sports or when I do yoga. And it's very slowly advancing. And the full lotus is not yet possible, but half lotus, I think it's not good just to do it with force. It might be even dangerous, a yoga teacher told me, for the knees, to do it with force, because there is possible to hurt your knees really bad. So this is what I want to share, basically, that yoga teacher can help you if you want to get in the half or full lotus position. Yoga can help you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So don't do it with force. Yoga can help a lot. So I found it kind of funny, interesting that Chris would ask me about this, because his wife, Shwan, who is our host, she's a yoga teacher. So if you're interested in yoga exercise, hip opening, you can become a student. So she's offering yoga courses as well, and that could also help with opening the hips, becoming better at sitting in full lotus. But also with yoga, don't force it too much. You can also hurt yourself with doing it too hard in yoga. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share?
I want to talk about the lotus.
Yes.
Normally in yoga, we sit on the floor. We don't really sit straight. Your back is not straight. Either you tailbone up, you bend a little bit. Your back is not straight, or you bend forward, or
Yes.
you tailbone up. We
Yes.
don't really sit straight.
I
Also,
see.
so like Ashtanga, there are 3 lotus. At
Yes.
the finishing sequence, your back is not straight. It's bent a little forward, or you're all the way on the floor.
I
So
see.
yeah, but I think Chris's back have a little problem. So when he notice his back is not straight, so I think he feel more comfortable after he sit on the cushion.
Yeah.
Your back is more straight, so you feel more uncomfortable, I think.
I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you would like to share or ask? So next week would be the last Monday Zen and Zazen class this summer, because the week after that, on the 28th, I'm starting and going to Germany and Switzerland. Next week, I'm going to talk about Zen mind, beginner's mind. That would be July 21st. And I will get back at the end of September. So the next Monday class would be October 6th, I think. That's almost 3 months from now, but well, I hope to see you again next week and hopefully also in the autumn. Or maybe if you're in the area of Germany or Switzerland, maybe we see each other there. So thank you everybody for coming, and
not in France.
Not in France, no. And thank you, Xuan-san, for hosting us. Have a nice week and maybe see you again next week.